Welcome to Uncovered Biblical History and Traditions, the channel dedicated to lost stories of the biblical past. Discover stories of pre-Christian historical roots, biblical legends, lost church history and forgotten historical characters of faith. It is very helpful if you hit the like, subscribe and share. Help build my channel and let's take a look together into these uncovered forgotten tales. Imagine this, it's the year 309 AD in Roman Britain. A Christian priest is running for his life through the misty countryside, Roman soldiers hot on his heels. Suddenly, a figure steps from the shadows, a Roman soldier himself. But instead of capturing the fleeing priest, he does something extraordinary. He strips off the priest's distinctive robe and puts it on himself, deliberately drawing the deadly pursuit away from the terrified cleric. When the Romans finally catch up, they're furious to discover they've been deceived. The commanding officer barks an order to a nearby soldier, execute this traitor immediately. But then something even more shocking happens. The soldier looks his superior straight in the eye and declares, "I cannot. I too am a Christian." Within minutes, both men are dead, beheaded together for their faith. This is the story of Alban, and most people think he was Britain's first Christian martyr. But they're wrong, dead wrong. The real first martyr died 250 years earlier, and his story has been buried beneath centuries of confusion and mislabeled history. Today, we're going to uncover the truth about Britain's forgotten first Christian martyr, and reveal how one of the most important figures in early British Christianity has been hiding in plain sight. Let's start by setting the record straight about Alban. His story, dramatic as it is, represents the later phase of Christian persecution in Britain. By 309 AD, Christianity had already been establishing roots in British soil for over 2.5 centuries. Alban was indeed the first Roman soldier martyred for his faith in Britain, but calling him the first Christian martyr overall is like calling the American Civil War the first conflict in North America. It ignores everything that came before. The Church of Saint Albans, built on the spot where both soldiers were executed, still bears Alban's name today. It's a magnificent testament to courage, but it's also perpetuated one of history's great mix-ups. Because underneath that church, literally and figuratively, lies the memory of someone who died for Christ when Alban's great-great-grandfather hadn't even been born yet. Enter Aristobulus, and prepare to have your understanding of early British Christianity completely transformed. This man wasn't just any Christian missionary. He was one of the original 70 disciples chosen by Jesus Christ himself. He was the beloved friend of the Apostle Paul, the father-in-law of Peter, yes, that Peter, and the brother of Barnabas, Paul's famous missionary companion. In other words, Aristobulus was Christian royalty, a member of the inner circle that personally knew Jesus and the apostles. But here's where it gets fascinating. Multiple historical sources, Greek church records, Roman documents, British genealogies, all point to the same incredible fact. This man, this direct disciple of Christ, ended up in Britain in the year 58 AD, becoming the island's first Christian bishop. And in 59 AD, exactly 250 years before Alban's death, Aristobulus became Britain's true first Christian martyr. Now, you might be thinking, this sounds too good to be true. Where's the proof? Hold on to your hats, because the documentation is absolutely staggering. Cardinal Alfred, one of the Vatican's most respected historians, wrote definitively, "It is perfectly certain that before St. Paul had come to Rome, Aristobulus was absent in Britain." The Greek church martyrologies describe him as one of the 70 disciples and a follower of St. Paul the Apostle, chosen by St. Paul to be the missionary bishop to the land of Britain. Dorotheus, Bishop of Tyre, writing in 303 AD, right around the time of Alban's martyrdom, specifically mentions Aristobulus, who is mentioned by the Apostle in his epistle to the Romans, was made bishop in Britain. Even the formal church calendar, the Adonis Martyrologia, records March 15th as his martyrdom date, calling him Bishop of Britain, brother of Saint Barnabas the Apostle. This isn't some obscure theory based on a single questionable source. This is multiple, independent historical traditions all pointing to the same remarkable conclusion. But perhaps the most compelling evidence is written across the British landscape itself. In Wales, there's a district called Aristobulus, located on the River Severn in Montgomeryshire. The name has existed, from time immemorial, preserving Aristobulus's presence in the original Welsh language. It's like having George Washington's name preserved in a Native American dialect. It shows deep, authentic cultural integration that can't be faked or invented centuries later. This is where our story takes a turn worthy of a Netflix drama. Aristobulus didn't arrive in Britain alone. He came with a man named Bran the Blessed, a figure from British royal circles, along with several other companions described as men of Israel. This wasn't a solo missionary stumbling around in the wilderness. This was a carefully planned, well-supported mission with high-level political backing. And the timing, absolutely crucial. Aristobulus died in 59 AD, the exact same year that Caractacus, the legendary British king, was finishing his parole in Rome. Caractacus had been captured by the Romans, taken to Rome as a prisoner, but had so impressed Emperor Claudius with his dignity that he was granted freedom on the condition that he never take up arms against Rome again. Picture the heartbreak. Caractacus had to leave his daughter Claudia behind in Rome, where she'd married a Roman senator and had 4 children. His eldest son, Linus, had become the first bishop of Rome, yes, the first pope. The family was scattered across the empire, torn between British loyalty and Roman integration, between old traditions and new faith. When Caractacus finally returned to Britain, he built a castle in Glamorganshire and kept his word. He never fought the Romans again. Instead, he quietly supported the growing Christian movement while his daughter Princess Eurgain took over leadership of the Pauline mission in Britain. Princess Eurgain deserves her own Hollywood movie. After Aristobulus's martyrdom, she became the driving force behind Christian education in Britain. She founded 12 colleges for what were called Christian Druids. Essentially, she created Britain's first Christian universities. These weren't small village schools. These were major institutions that attracted students from across the known world and continued operating for centuries. But Eurgain wasn't just an educator. She was also an artist and innovator. She created Britain's first Christian choirs, wrote hymns that spread across the entire island, and established a tradition of Christian music that would influence British culture for generations. The historical records call her the most beloved woman in Britain, and when you consider what she accomplished, it's easy to see why. Then came the ultimate validation. Paul himself arrived in Britain. He landed at what's still called Paul's Grove, near Portsmouth, and founded the famous Abbey of Bangor. This wasn't just another monastery. It became known as the Mother of Monasteries, attracting over 2,100 members and operating under Paul Irregular, the rule of Paul. Over each of the abbey's 4 gates, Paul had inscribed his personal motto: "If a man will not work, neither let him eat." Every abbot who followed considered himself a direct successor to Paul himself. The abbey's educational program was so advanced that scholars traveled from across Europe to study there. So how did Aristobulus get forgotten while Alban got the glory? It wasn't a conspiracy, it was simply the natural result of time and politics. By 309 AD, when Alban died, the Roman Empire was going through massive changes. Constantine would legalize Christianity just 4 years later. The dramatic story of a Roman soldier's conversion and martyrdom fit perfectly with the empire's shifting religious narrative. Meanwhile, Aristobulus's story was more complicated. He represented the earlier, more Jewish phase of Christianity, connected to political figures like Caractacus who had actually fought against Rome. As British Christianity became more Romanized, the earlier Jewish Christian foundations became less politically convenient to emphasize. The physical evidence is still there if you know where to look. The original church at Saint Alban's was built by the Ordovices tribe as a memorial to Aristobulus. When Alban died 250 years later, they simply rebuilt and renamed it. Excavations at Glastonbury have uncovered King Ina's church, built over the grave of Ilad, one of Aristobulus's companions. And in Wales, you can still visit the geographic areas where these first Christian missionaries worked and died. This isn't just an academic exercise in correcting historical records. Understanding the true story of Britain's first Christian martyr reveals something profound about the nature of early Christianity itself. This wasn't a Roman import imposed on reluctant barbarians. This was a carefully planned, strategically executed mission led by people who had personally known Jesus Christ. The Christianity that took root in Britain had deep Jewish roots, royal political support, and sophisticated educational institutions. It produced the first pope, influenced the Roman Empire itself, and created cultural traditions that lasted for centuries. Princess Eurgain's colleges at Eurgain continued producing missionaries and teachers well into the 10th century. Perhaps the greatest irony is that both stories, Aristobulus and Alban, took place at the same location. The Church of Saint Alban's literally sits on top of the memorial to Britain's first Christian martyr, while bearing the name of a martyr who died 2.5 centuries later. Today, when we visit Saint Alban's Cathedral, we should remember both men, Alban the Roman soldier, who died courageously in 309 AD, and Aristobulus the apostolic disciple, who gave his life for Christ in 59 AD. Both deserve honor. Both represent crucial moments in British Christian history. If you would like further context and the rest of the story, check out previous videos and future videos. If you would like more information where to research this subject, pause this image and look into these resources or find resources in description. If you have book sources or links of your own on this subject, please share in comments or email me. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this forgotten biblical story. Leave a like, comment, share and subscribe. This is very helpful. Join me next time for another lost story of our biblical history. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe for more great content. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. See you in the next video.